Changing the router bit does not need to be a very difficult thing. When you start out, the router should be sitting inside the table like this. You can also be using a handheld router, and it's really the same format. Open up the cabinet, reach underneath, lift the router out of the table, and then prior to doing this, I made sure that the router table was unplugged for safety. Once you get this situation so that it's up here, now all you need to do is make sure you have 2 wrenches and the router bit that you want in its place, depending on what your needs are. To take the router bit out, you need both wrenches because they're different sizes. One is larger than the other. The large one goes on the collet, and then the smaller one goes down on the neck, which is attached to the motor. The collet is threaded on, and you just turn it in a counterclockwise fashion to loosen it. And when you get it loose, then you can reach in, grab it by the ball bearing, and pull it out. If it doesn't have a ball bearing and it's like this, be very careful that you don't grab these blades because they're very sharp. Make sure you grab it on the sides and pull up so that if it does slip, you don't cut your fingers on those sharp knives. Installing the router bit is the same, just the opposite directions. Put it in and go ahead and tighten up your router bit. So now I'd be tightening my collet up in I'd be turning it in a clockwise fashion to tighten it. Many people over tighten these. Doesn't need to be super tight, just make sure it's firm. And then put these back where they belong. Now, to change the height of your bit, this can be you want to make sure that your router bit is sticking up above the base so that it actually cuts, but you don't want it up too high. To change the height of this, you open that up, and then this is a micro adjuster where this will change the height in one direction. You can see how this moves up and down. Right now it was already extended all the way, so I'm going to put it in the middle. That's about the middle there. And now if I push in on this, it releases the sleeve, and now this can slide up. Okay, so you can see where that's sticking up. Now, from your angle, you can see how that router bit's sticking up too high. You only want to go up just a tiny bit. So I would have my first cutting pass where I'm only cutting off just a little bit, usually about half of what you want your final depth to be. You'll want to make sure that as you cut, your router bit has, if you're using one with a ball bearing, it has something to ride against. So if I were to do this, I'd need to be very careful that the ball bearing did not go inside that groove. Once you're done with that, just place it back in. Plug in your router table. Make sure you have push pads or the necessary safety gear, and you can begin your cut.